Okay, so this is kind of a combination of everything we've done so far. So the degree, we know that the degree, hopefully you remember, the degree is the largest exponent. So on number 1, the largest exponent I see is 3. And so then for the leading coefficient, the term with the degree of 3 has a 1 in front. So it has a leading coefficient of 1. What we care about when we look at the degree and the leading coefficient, degree we care whether it's even or odd. So in this case it's odd. And then the leading coefficient is either positive or negative. In this case it's positive. Those two things together help us determine what our end behavior is. And remember, with end behavior, we're going to indicate what's happening to the right end and the left end. We're indicating whether they're pointing up or down. So the right end matches the sign, the positive or negative sign of the leading coefficient. So the leading coefficient was positive, so the right is going up. And then to determine the left side, it all depends on the degree and what was happening to the right side. If the degree is even, then both sides point the same direction. If it's odd, as it is here, one side points up, one side points down. So since the right was going up, that means the left has to be going down. Now, synthetic division, it tells us up above, use synthetic division to factor out the given factor. This is what you did yesterday. So notice in the problem, there's a semicolon. X plus 2 is the factor. That's the given factor. So we're going to divide out x plus 2 from that other polynomial. So if it says x plus 2, the number that's going to go in the box is a negative 2. So it gave us a little bit of room for our synthetic division. And so then we'll take the coefficients of the polynomial. The x cubed term had a coefficient of 1. Then x squared was a 4. X was a 1. The constant was negative 6. So as we do synthetic division, drop that first number straight down. And then multiply by the number in the box. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Add 4 and negative 2, we get 2. Times negative 2 is negative 4. Add together, we get negative 3. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Add those together, we get a remainder of 0. The fact that it has a remainder of 0 tells us it was a factor. That's what I expected. Might be worth writing off to the side what I've got so far. I had an x plus 2 that I had just factored out. And now I'm left with 1, and that's going to be an x squared because it started with x cubed. So now we're up to 1x squared. So 1x squared plus 2x minus 3. And so now the next step where it says factors, that's where we factor this down. So this is still what we did yesterday. So we had the x plus 2 that we just factored out. And now we're going to try and factor down this quadratic trinomial, the x squared plus 2x minus 3. So I need an x and an x to lead the way. Looking for two numbers which multiply to negative 3 that add to positive 2. That would be a positive 3 and a negative 1. So I have it completely factored here. Now, where we're going to move on from there is once we have the factors, we want to find the zeros. We did this back in chapter 4. So we wanted to find the x-intercepts. Remember, zeros, that's another name for an x-intercept. So you look at the factor. If x plus 2 is a factor, the 0 is if you would set that equal to 0. If you'd set x plus 2 equal to 0 when you solve, you would get x is negative 2. So negative 2 is a 0, or otherwise known as an x-intercept. Then, if x plus 3 equals 0, you solve that, you get negative 3. So that's another 0. And then if x minus 1 is set equal to 0, you get positive 1. Now I'm going to jump down to my graph. I'll come back to the y-intercept, but I'm going to jump down to my graph, and I'm going to put those 3 zeros onto my graph. So I've got to put one of my little dash marks on there. So at negative 3, there's an x-intercept. At negative 2, there's an x-intercept. And at 1, there's an x-intercept. So I can put dots at those spots. Now it also asks about the y-intercept. Y-intercept we haven't talked about yet, but it's very easy to find. If it's going to be a y-intercept, it's on the y-axis, the x-coordinate is 0. All you do is plug 0 in for x. So 0 cubed plus 4 times 0 squared, plus 0. All the terms that have x in them will turn into zeros. So all you'll have left is that constant. In this case, the constant is negative 6. Negative 6 then is the y-intercept. So on our y-axis, I might not have given myself enough room here, but we're going to try. 3, 4, 5, 6. Go down to that y-axis, put a point there. And now we're going to just connect our dots. And so we're going to connect them thinking about the end behavior, what we know about the right end, what we know with the left end, hitting all of these x-intercepts as well as the y-intercept. So the right end we said was up. We said the right end's going up. So if you look at the 3 points, negative 3, negative 2, and 1, the 3 zeros we have, the rightmost one is the 1. When you go to the right of that, it's pointing up. We said that because we said the right side is going up. So now we kind of work backwards. We also, like, I can go over to the left side. We know the left side's going down. So if I go to the leftmost 0 and go to the left of that, I know it's pointing down. So I know that's how the ends are going to behave. And now in between, I make sure I hit my y-intercept. So I hit that, the positive one rather, go down, hit the y-intercept, and then at some point I come up and hit that next 0, and at some point I come back down and hit the next 0. So my graph is going to look kind of like that. This is just called a sketch. The instructions said to sketch the graph. It's probably not exact, and I'm not worried about being exact. I'm basically looking for the shape of it. So there's a few things we knew for sure, the x-intercepts and the y-intercept, and we know the end behavior, and then otherwise I just kind of bounce and hit those points. Let's look at, I do want to look at the next one together too because something unique happens. Yeah, go ahead and ask. Oh, you have a couple questions. Go ahead. I was going